my mind on that. But when I was doing that, I read a book which was about the life of a jazz pianist called Bud Powell. Bud Powell was a black American and quite famous, but he suffered, as a lot of these musicians suffered, with great addictions which he couldn't control. And these are addictions where the addict was drinking 1 or 2 bottles of hard liquor a day. Plus they were doing the biggest mistake, which is mixing alcohol with drugs, which they ingested and smoked and sniffed and all kinds of things like that. Incidentally, I never got into that, for which I'm very grateful to my studies of therapy and different religions and ways of life, because it doesn't work. It doesn't. You can't study the ways of the spirit and be drinking. It just doesn't work. Now, when I read Bud Powell's way that his life was totally ruined, and he was a very talented jazz player, when I read that, it scared me, because I must have read, it's a long time ago now, 60s, that I read that book, and so hard to remember exactly what it was that was said that influenced me so heavily, but it frightened me that it was possible to be drawn into alcohol or any drug by thinking of it as just a fun thing at the beginning. Now, what happens with any drug, if you don't know, is that the body builds up first a tolerance to it and then a need for it. So once you've got to that stage where the alcohol is now in charge, now the body's need starts to affect you in a very painful way, and you have to obey the call to have the drug to straighten yourself up, to get back to normal, not to get high, just to get normal. This much I've read. So Bud Powell, his life story was a great lesson to me not to do what he had done, and what many other people that I admired as musicians did and ruined their lives. And then when I became a musician, a working musician in civilian life, I saw firsthand how it ruins lives, because my belief is it can't be controlled. You may believe that you can control it, but I don't believe that you can. And in one particular band that I was in for 7 years, because I didn't drink, ironically, it's ironic that I wasn't very popular, because I wouldn't go for a drink, and if I did go to the bar, it was to have a soft drink. And of course, when people are getting high on alcohol, they don't want to be watched by someone who isn't getting high. So that became a lonely way of life, and that lasted out through all of my professional life, that it was an alone time because I didn't go in with all of the other stuff. Now, that wasn't because I'm a holier than thou, it was because I had goals that alcohol would interfere with, so I didn't do it. And that was my great lesson. And I stayed off the alcohol, stayed off drugs. I never took any kind of street drug. I just didn't mix in that kind of way. So I kept away from that. And all of this has come up because we have youngsters who go to a disco here, and while they're at a disco, they can have a drink. And of course, as youngsters will do, they have a drink because it makes them feel good. It makes them forget their problems, or so they think. And they don't realize the danger. And in confronting just how lethal the addiction is once you get it, has made me think that maybe there are videos to be made about this. And my friend Karl the Coffin maker has offered his story as the first, which is what I'm going to do. So thanks for being with me now. Bye for now.